Okay, guys. Now, as I noted to some of you earlier, I forgot to change that. I'm sorry. It's 11.9. Okay, so just make that 11.9 there. Make sure that you keep things in order. Guys, something that we have been talking about with the last section is the probability of an event happening at the same time another event happens. Remember, we had to subtract that when we were finding the probability of overlapping events, right? We had to add the probability of two events happening and then subtract the chance of them happening together, all right? And today we're going to work on finding out what the probability of things are happening together. But to do that, we've got two possible things. We've got independent events and dependent events. And I want to talk about independent first, okay? Now, Curran, I'm going to talk about flipping a coin twice, okay? Now, if I flip a coin and it lands on heads, does that mean the second time I flip the coin that it can't land on heads? No, it can, right? So the fact that it happened the first time doesn't affect that it happened the second time at all. Is that right? That one event doesn't have an effect on the other event. Those events are called independent, all right? Two events such as the occurrence of one event does not affect the probability of the occurrence of the other event. For example, you roll a number cube twice, okay? The event roll a 3 first and then roll a 4 are independent events. One happening doesn't make the next one harder or impossible to happen, okay? Now the next thing we need to talk about are dependent events, all right? Now let's think about this for just a second. It says a bag contains 4 red marbles and 5 green marbles. You randomly choose a marble, do not replace it, and then randomly choose a second marble. The event, first marble is red and second marble is red, are dependent events. And here's why. Let's say for a moment that there are 9 marbles in the bag, right? Okay. What is the probability that I'm going to choose a red out of that first bag, Alexander? 4 out of 9, right? Because there are 9 marbles in there and 4 of them are red. So that's the probability of me choosing a red one on the first. But I don't put it back in there. What's the probability of me choosing a red on the next one? Arjun? 3 out of 8. Because there's only 8 marbles left and 3 of them are red. All right? So do you see how the second event is dependent on the first one? Okay? It changed the probability. They're dependent. Okay? Now, a couple of notes here. The probability of independent events. That means events that don't affect each other. The probability of both of them happening is the probability of one times the probability of the other. Okay? So what's the chance of me flipping a coin and getting heads on both of them? Well, it's 1 out of 2 to flip heads on the first try, and it's 1 out of 2 to flip heads on the second try. So the probability of getting heads on both is just 1/2 times 1/2. 1 out of 4. Okay? Now, the probability of dependent events is the probability of A times the probability of B after A. Because once I pull the red one out, now the probability is changing. So it's going to be different. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go and look at some of these examples. Thanks, Ms. Scafuri.